Adrienne from Greenshire Homestead. I'm here to show you about blanching tomatoes. We're not going to can any today because what I'm going to do is blanch them and then put them in the freezer, and then when I have a whole bunch or when I have a little more time, I'm going to put them in cans and get them canned. But I've already started cutting the tomatoes, and I have a few that I'm going to show you, and I'm going to show you the differences of the two tomatoes that we grow. We have basically a round tomato. It's kind of like a slicing tomato. You would put it like on hamburgers or sandwiches or whatnot. And then we also have something called a paste tomato. And I don't know if you can really see, there's a lot of meat inside. There's some seeds, they're not quite as seedy as the other ones are. But when you do blanch them, you want to remove the skins and the seeds, because those things will make your tomatoes kind of bitter, and they will also make them very soupy. Alright, so I wanted to show you a couple things. I've got here my little bits that I already started their compost, but what I'm going to do is I'll take a tomato, and you can either, if it's a slicing tomato, I core it, but these paste tomatoes are hard to core, so I basically just cut off the end. And then what you do is put a little X on the bottom, because that helps the skin peel off after you blanch it. Now I wanted to show you this one. This one I already cut the top off, but the bottom of it's like really squishy. It's kind of like rotten-like-ish. So what I'm going to do is cut off that part that's yucky, and I don't have to put an X on the bottom because I've already cut off the yucky part on the bottom. So anyways, I'm going to finish cutting these, and then we're going to, I've got them in batches here. I have some plates that have some pretty deep lips on them, and I like to use those because I've discovered in the past that when I used them on a cutting board, tomato juice went absolutely everywhere. So I usually do a few plates, and I kind of line them up like I'm doing, because you want to get the tomatoes very similar in size, because you're going to blanch them for just about 60 or 90 seconds. And if, you know, some of them are great big and some of them are smaller, you have to fish out the little ones before the big ones are done, and that's hard to do. So we're going to get them around the same size. This is my last tomato. And then I'm going to show you what we do when we're done. But what I have here, let me show you this, is a little colander-like. And what I'm going to end up doing is putting a few tomatoes, again similar in size, together, and then I'm going to put them in my bowl or my pot of boiling water, and I'm going to blanch them for 60 to 90 seconds. I usually set my timer, but I don't go by my timer a lot. I just kind of look and see, and if they're starting to peel, I pull them out and put them on the table, or on the plates. And part of the reason I use the plates too is that after I put them in and then take them back out, I can put them on the plate and like cut them in half, kind of cut them open so they can cool a little bit, so that they're easier to handle when I go about getting like the meat out of the tomatoes themselves. So I think I've got you pretty well set up. What we're going to do here is open this. And I'm just going to dump these little guys in here, and I'm going to set my timer, and I'm going to check on it in about 60 or 90 seconds, and when the skins start to peel off, I'm just going to put this back on this plate, and I'm going to cut them open, and then I'm going to do, I've got 6 plates here, so I'm going to do 6 pots worth, and then I'll show you how to prepare them, I guess you could say. It's not really preparing, the process them, I guess. So anyways, I'll see you in a few minutes. Alright, I've got my last batch of tomatoes, and I'm going to throw them in here. And I usually try to reuse my water, but this water, obviously, if you're looking at it, cannot be reused. But those tomatoes are in there, and I've got my timer set. And the last batch, it's really kind of hard to see in there, but when you see them, they're not cooperating with my colander, so I've got this little ladle too. But you'll see them start to the skin will start to pull away. But it's not quite ready yet. It takes about 60 to 90 seconds. And they say the best thing to do is to put them in a bowl of cold water when you're done to help stop the cooking. But if you're gonna, can them anyways, what's the big deal? Because you're going to heat them up in the canner. So anyways, I skip that step. I don't know if I'm lazy or what, but I just don't do it. So these probably are almost ready. It's almost been a minute. But I'll pull those out, and if you can see, I've already got most of these cut open a little bit. And you can either have them or quarter them. And the main reason that I cut them open is to help cool them off. That's kind of like my version of putting them in a cold water bath to cool them off. But I put them in there so that they'll be easier to handle when I'm ready to work with them, so I don't burn my fingers. So I'm cutting those open. Oh, there's a bad spot. I should have taken off before I blanched it. Oh well. So those are ready. I think this is probably, yep, they're kind of floating, so that's usually a key that they're ready too, is when they're kind of floating. Like I said, this hasn't been cooperating, so I'm going to ladle them out and put them in here. And this batch was all, this particular batch was all the paste tomatoes, but there is one slicing tomato in there. We haven't been using a lot of slicing tomatoes like on sandwiches this week and stuff, so I went ahead and put them in here, but the paste tomatoes are better for salsa or spaghetti sauce or just canning your tomatoes or whatnot. So anyways, we're going to put this on the plate. We're going to cut them open, let them cool a little bit, and then show you how to basically get all the meat out. Alrighty, I've got all my tomatoes blanched, and basically I'm going to show you what I do to get them ready for canning. These are all, the ones in the front are pretty cool, and if you see by putting that X on the bottom, the skins really just kind of peel off, and I'm putting them in my compost bucket. And if there's any bad spots, put those in there too. Again, as I mentioned, you don't want the seeds, you don't want the skin, you don't want any rough core pieces. So if you look at this one, that's pretty much just tomato meat. And so what I'm going to do, there's a little spot right there, put that in the compost. Put that in there. And then when I get around to it, when I have a little more time, or when I have a whole bunch of tomatoes, I don't know how much I'm going to end up with here, I'll put this in the freezer with a lid on, and then I'll come back to it when I have a little more time. I will get it defrosted and can those things. But if you look at that, I don't know if you can see that really well. That part was in the middle of the tomato, the kind of the core, and you don't want that icky hard stuff in your, salsa or tomato sauce or spaghetti sauce or anything like that. So just take all the bad parts out. It's going to take me a little while, throw all the seeds in there. I usually stick my thumb in, and I don't know if you can see that, and kind of scoop the seeds into the bucket so that I don't have to have them all over my plate, because this is going to get kind of messy. But anyways, that's really kind of what it looks like. It's just the meat or the flesh of the tomato. So I'm going to save those, and I'm going to be here for a little while. So talk to you later. I guess I'll show you what it looks like when I'm all done. All right, we've got it all put away, basically. Here's all the yucky stuff, and actually I'm going to take my little strainer, and I'm going to strain a little bit of juice in there too, because I'm going to show you something else that I've got. I'm going to do all of it, but just the main juice there. And the rest is going to go in the compost or go to the chickens. But the reason why I did that is because I want to show you this. I saved a little bit of water from the last time I had blanched some tomatoes, and basically I just canned up the liquid, and it's not tomato juice. There's a lot of water in there, but it would be great to put in a soup or a stew or chili or something like that. So, you know, if you have some little extra stuff and you want to throw it in there, that's great. Now I've got, this is almost all the way full, and this is a gallon jar. And we're going to, I was looking at the calendar, and I think that today is Tuesday, so I'm going to either can these tomorrow or Thursday. So I decided not to throw them in the freezer. I'm going to throw them in the fridge. I'm going to put the lid on, put them in the fridge, and then I'll show you how to can those up next time. I think that's it. This is Adrienne at Greenshire Homestead signing off. Bye.